Gravel Bike California here, in the Kingdom of Cambria, getting ready for Eroica California. Now, this event started back in the old country, on vintage bikes before 1987, on the back roads around Siena, but has now evolved to events around the globe, and including more modern bikes as well. Now, if you've seen our Cayucos video, we've ridden a good portion of this course in reverse, meaning we're familiar this area encapsulates Central Coast beauty. At the same time, I remember the conditions being really good on dirt. So I'm going against internet polling and going to ride 32s today. And if I get lost, it'll just be a Roman holiday. Let's roll. Cambria is a town of 6,000 in the Chumash region, established in the mid-1800s off of Santa Rosa Creek as your last big stop up to Big Sur. And being right on the coast, we joined our friend Don the day before for a short ride along Highway 1, which is a real battle of the wind heading north, but turning around at the Elephant Seals allowed a more enjoyable experience with the elements, riding along the shoreline with Hearst Castle looming above the hills as San Simeon sits underneath, with its wharf now a popular state beach dating back before this Rosebud era. We made our way to the festival Friday, which had a Renaissance fair vibe to it, as there's a clear tie to yesteryear where it's easy to pick up a bike for Sunday's event, but you'll have trouble finding parts for the more modern-leaning Nova on Saturday, but you can still grab something recent at 22nd century prices, as this route is way tougher on these older steeds. The Nova Eroica long course covers 96 miles with 7,261 feet of gain, but only a quarter of it is dirt. But all three major climbs are off-road, starting with Santa Rita, Kiler Canyon, and Cypress Mountain. It was great. Don's place was down the street, as it was a luxury leaving just minutes before, seeing we were among the last to arrive, with everyone pumped to go.
We're here. It's Eroica Day. I'm ready. Are you?
There wasn't great urgency at the rollout, passing through the west and east villages of Cambria at a conversational speed to thank Road Bike Action magazine for the entries, as the first 14 miles was mostly flat, and more importantly, downwind, as with the bulk of it on Highway 1, the miles just peeled off, chatting with now full-time gravel cyclist Nathan Haas, eventually veering off into Cayucos at the pier for our first stop, with breakfast all laid out, giving time to be social, but maybe too much of it, as we had over a half hour until the official 9:30 start, but the ride finally commenced without formality, as everyone was eager to get out of town with 80 more miles ahead of us. We made it through the cemetery gates, where Keats and Yates were not on my side, because as we turned onto Old Creek Road, oh no, oh, my right shifter started to come apart, making it a struggle to change gears, as drifting to the back became today's theme.
My gears. There it goes.
The climb up to Whale Creek Reservoir was an ideal warm-up, averaging 3% over 2.5 miles, causing the pack to separate, as the struggle to stay with the front was self-evident to all.
We'll see. It's to be tenuous.
I kept rubber banding off the lead group as we turned onto Santa Rita Road, but shooting steady video trying to keep pace is a difficult task on its own. But add falling behind when everyone else switches into the proper gear, meant firing bullets to catch back on, but I only had so much ammo. Of course, it's great to have Vic for company. As the dirt below signaled our first climb, as Santa Rita covered 5.25 miles, averaging a modest 4.3%, but the last 2.25 till closer to 7. The great part was the abundance of shade, easy grade for the majority, and even better if you left early. But seeing the peak pop out made us feel like we had a long ways to go. But time passed quickly, even under the steeper portions, as the last third of a mile is exposed, with enough elevation to see the ocean peek through, as the variety made this my favorite climb of the day, but some notes as we reach the peak.
Now, not only is this an appropriate place for a stop because of the view, but we've been an appropriate spot for a pit stop.
Sensing no cavalry was coming, it was time to check out whether 32s were the right move, with 4 miles of downhill dirt in front of us, which provided an ideal blend of comfort and speed against some others. Riding next to Santa Rita Creek, we eventually transitioned onto pavement, veering away from the waterway, leading temperatures to creep up, as well as other riders, as these rolling hills put us into chase mode, with not a lot of time to take in the scenery, as everyone gripped to stay at the front, as Jet seemed to cool at Vineyard Drive, where the long and short course split off. Making it over the 101 led us east of Templeton for a 15-mile loop, starting off with some exceptional dirt on the Italian-esque Moss Lane, which had few details to it, but an untypically flat road within the rolling hills. My favorite stretch of this loop lasted 2 miles, making our way back onto pavement, where the pace picked up enough that we nearly missed this turnoff, sending us to an olive farm, which we had to assume was a pit stop since it wasn't listed on our map, as our assumptions were founded setting a theme for the day, not to mention an abundance of bread and olive oil instead of energy snacks. But we were back to being Willie Nelson, primarily riding on the road again for the next 18 miles, which was quickly punctuated with an unexpected effort up El Pomar Road, where spring was already fleeting, paying off with some 2K of dirt side roads, even if it wasn't always properly marked, rolling through more residential than agrarian, as the loose gravel on the way out was the toughest test of this ride that my 32s had to handle. I constantly checked the route on my Bolt, because some late placed markers caused a bit of overshooting, but still making decent time humming down the miles at roadie speeds, and finding these 1-star gravel sections as the last tame piece of dirt for this ride. It was good to finish off the loop and cross back over the Salinas River, rolling through the heart of Templeton, which you can't miss with its oversized grain silo, being the most palatable spot for a stop if you take this route on a non-Eroica day. Once again, we played pin the tail on the donkey, trying to find our next pit stop, which was tucked away without much fanfares, with the lunchable spreads still in vogue. We flipped back over the 101, heading west on Highway 46, which had more of a wine country vibe, as we turned deeper into it on Arbor Road, that quickly transitioned to dirt, and the desire to pick up some grapes, as this fun section of dried out road, motivating you to keep the legs spinning as cars kicked up the Strada Bianchi on you, but everyone's color stayed intact. Arbor merged into Kiler Canyon, which also presto changeoed into dirt, and the start looked promising, but as the landscape came closing in, the sweat started coming out faster. The overall numbers of Kiler aren't scary, but it's this mile section a third of the way up that'll get most of your attention. While the surface isn't ideal, it's in pretty good shape considering its unusual position in this canyon, which are things I think about to get over these tough stretches. But as you start to make it out of the shade, the road keeps its looseness in the sun as the contrast makes you squint over the final few hundred yards of this portion. But an ideal spot for a break avails itself, with the pitch letting up, affording you views looking down onto wine country, as the only time to have a look at this area from a perspective like this, with these rocks lined at the peak, before a brief downhill to finish off this unique road. It was refreshing to hit some speed, as the next 11 miles was paved, starting with a 4.5 mile descent on Peachy Canyon, where you can understand the area's allure ideally through the more compliant speeds biking provides, with open spaces unique to California, which complements them as scenic locales for wineries, as Trevor, Vic, and Connor led the way into Halter Ranch, where you can fill up on bread, meats, soup, and why not wine tasting.
Eroica California here, tasting all the wine.
A little hint of mint, raspberry, and cliff blocks.
Are you tasting some gravel in there too? Shale.
It was time to bid our adieus, as there's good reason to head out quickly. Seeing how this was still early afternoon, the wineries start to fill up with patrons, and traffic on Adelaida Road picked up as well. But tensions eased on Clow Mine Road, but not necessarily from the surface conditions, as I noticed we're pretty much done seeing center lines until you make it back near town. Turning onto Cypress Mountain Road brought us back to dirt, and the most significant climb of the day is once again the overall numbers deceive you, as finishing off this ascent with two of the toughest stretches of the day. The dirt starts with a third of a mile of punchiness. That'll get your heart rate up, but you'll catch your breath on the short downhill that may be the choppiest gravel of the day. But the great thing you'll find about these two bridges is how the incline stays relatively tame as long as you're riding by this waterway, finding previous habitations, as well as riders from the short route, with some of them signaling the pain train has arrived. Even if you're one of the faster riders, your progress is going to be slow, even getting through this first significant pitch. But after a brief opening, where your legs remember what spinning feels like, get comfy for this last 3/4 of a mile, as you should focus on each stride getting you a little closer, even if that means advancing with your feet on the ground, because that's still cutting down distance. It's 3 cheers for reaching the top, and the consolation of ocean views returning. But once again, no pit stop where we expected it. So many just hightailed it down, and we soon followed suit, as it was 14 miles back to the finish, which is primarily downhill, with the first mile being dirt and playfully windy, where the lack of trees present these unique countryside views, as it was a memorable way to end our dirt experience, reaffirming I was happy with my tire choice. But a little late for us now to use this last pit stop. Moving on to Santa Rita Road, we knew we didn't want to get caught in a pack, as we did some recon refreshing the day before, noting where we could pass, as you have to be aware in this narrow road, not only for the first hairpin curve, but the even more technical one soon after, as we were also prepped for these uneven dips. Because it's easy to get wrapped up in the scenery, you need to stay on the ready for oncoming traffic and even other cyclists coming out of the shadows. But still, one of my favorite roads to descend. My rear camera picked it up before I did, but a group of 3 got in front of us as Vic and I bought tickets to this train, because even though we were going downhill, we were facing a big headwind. But at least there were signs we were near the end as we crossed back over the beginning of the course and in through town, making our way onto the festival grounds, where we accepted our anachronistic medals. But we would have been fine with some complimentary, I don't know, drinks or snacks. Meaning we decided not to hang out for long and said our goodbyes. Well, without a doubt, the course is fantastic. I don't know if I'll ever go to Italy again, but this is the closest you'll find here in California, especially with these great roads. At the same time, I might just remember the course in another few years. All the other details around definitely need to be taken up another notch. I'm a little thirsty, a little hungry, might have to make a quick exit. Anyways, if you love our videos, please hit the subscribe button or support us on Patreon or GVC Shop so we can bring you more. I'm gonna say dirt. That's my tagline.